All right. Mike Shildt. Mike Shildt and pitchers using substances.
Mm,
I do think that it should be said before we start that David played for Mike Shildt in multiple times, right? Low A
correct.
or short
Correct.
season and
2000.
Triple A.
So we won a ring in 2011 in
Okay.
Johnson City, which is rookie advanced,
Okay.
which is no longer a thing. And then I played for him again in 2016 in Memphis,
Which is
where
Triple A.
AAA, which is
Right.
and we were um, a vastly different experience as far as wins and losses.
I just mean, I think that's somewhat of an important part of the story that like you do know kind of the way he at least thinks a little bit and
Yeah,
know him a little bit.
yeah,
A lot of people are talking about this whole thing. He went on a long rant about the Giovanni Gallegos situation with the hat and the substance, and it just speaks to a larger conversation about the whole cheating in general and pitchers using substances, and just kind of wanted to get your take maybe on the way Mike Shildt handled it, and then into how you feel about pitchers using substances.
yeah. Well, I just I'll start with I love the quote of if he wants to put a little sunscreen on, you know, he doesn't want to get a little melanoma,
Yeah,
and then if he maybe if he wants to add rosin,
right.
to help a little bit, possibly,
Right. No, he threw out
maybe,
some good ideas of how to help some pitchers get
yeah,
get a little extra grip.
and protect their skin as well in the hot
Right,
and during
right.
the hot
Because
summer
that's
days.
ultimately his biggest concern, is that
Is his players' health, and that's
right,
why people love him as a manager.
right, right,
No,
right.
that was that's classic Mike Shildt. And I should say I'm very biased. I love playing for him. I think in the top three of just people who just like think the game really well and approach player development in a really good way. He was, I would like outstanding at that.
Okay.
Um, that being said, I kind of know where you stand on like pitchers using substances. You think it's kind of the same as pitchers using or hitters using pine tar. I don't know. I think he makes a great point that it's not evenly enforced
Okay.
across the board. And my suggestion for what needs to happen is they need to make it like boxing or MMA, where like you before you go on the mound, you like hold out your glove arm, and the guy with gloves applies the MLB approved substance for tack in the correct dosage to your wrists, and then you're allowed to step on the mound.
That's actually really funny. I like that. I just like the visual of that. I like how funny that would be.
Right, take your glove, take your hat off.
Right. Checks behind your ears, checks behind everything,
Yeah, yeah. It'd be pretty intimidating as a hitter.
Yeah. So my thing has always been, well, one, I should state, I just personally, as a pitcher, never liked substances. I just didn't like the way it felt. I don't like a sticky feeling. I like just the rosin. That was just my personal preference.
Right.
So I can't even say I've used, I think one time I did like sunscreen and rosin just to see how it felt, and I didn't like it. Not in a game, like in a bullpen, just to see how it felt. But I will say my point has always been, especially mainly with the guys that would use like pine tar, is my point was always like the reason the pine tar is in the stadium is because the hitters have brought it into the stadium. Like the reason it's in the dugout is because the hitters use it. And I don't understand why the hitters can use something that the pitchers can't use. They want an extra grip, or they want a better grip on their bat so it doesn't slip out of their hands, and the pitcher wants a better grip on the ball so it doesn't slip out of their hands.
I think there's the what's it called, like the point of diminishing returns for hitting. Like for you're only going to get so much grip on the bat and affect the bat in such a way. Whereas there's someone like you, right, who just wants to be able to feel the ball.
Right.
And just wants to be able to, throw it and know where it's going. Right. Like that is, I don't think any hitter would have any problem with that ever.
Okay.
Nobody wants a guy on the mound who has no idea where the ball is going.
Okay.
It's not good. But like if you keep at like the people who do like tar or whatever people, I've heard crazy mixtures of stuff. Like those people are adding spin to the ball and making the ball do drastically different things in the air.
Okay.
Whereas I'm not going to do drastically more with the bat with more and more grip. Like once I get a grip on it, that's kind of the end of it.
Okay. Well, because Shilt's point, I feel like what he was kind of alluding to is that he was kind of saying like he thinks the hitters are in favor of the pitchers being able to get more of a grip because they don't want balls flying all over the place and a pitcher losing a grip with 90, 99 and it, hitting the guy in the face or whatnot.
Absolutely. No, we want pitchers to feel the ball, right? Okay. We want it to a certain extent but like you don't want it to the extent where guys are swinging hit sliders that hit them in the nuts.
Right. Well, no, you never want that. Well, right. I mean, I want that, but as I can understand, do you know off the top of your head, like what specific substances help with just grip and not spin or whatnot? Or is there like, do you know if there's specific things that like, cause I guess one of the issues I had with his rant is like, I don't like when someone's like calling out someone, but it's kind of like vague, where it's like, and there are some substances out. I'm like, well, yeah, what are those like substances that you know of or whatnot? So I didn't know if he was saying that there are some things specifically that are more unfair than others type of thing. Cause I've always just lumped in, if you're using sunscreen rosin, you're using pine tar. I know some guys have those, they've made something where it's like in a little can or whatnot. Again, like I never mess with it. So I don't know what that really is. So I don't know if there's a difference between all of them or if it's just a preference thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you know that.
No, I don't know. I've heard I remember somebody listed a formula he had heard and like it involved Coca-Cola and I thought that was funny. But like no, I mean here's the tough thing is like I don't think there's like a way to like enforce it where you say like you can get a grip of the ball but you can't get too much of a grip of the ball.
Right.
Like that's such a hard thing to enforce. So it makes it such a tricky issue.
Right. Well, I think the heart. So I guess the heart of his rant seemed to be more on the side of how they police it, which I think we both kind of agree. And I think why it's one of the trickier things in baseball is because the truth is the reason why a lot of it's not policed on a consistent basis, or why at least some teams don't complain about it, is because their own guys do it. Like if you're facing, there's a lot of times where a team's facing another pitcher and, maybe a hitter goes to the manager is like, hey, this guy's doing something, to on his hat or something like that. And the manager's like, yeah, our guy's doing the same thing. So I'm not going to call attention to something and, screw ourselves. So I think Shildt was ultimately upset about the fact that it's so inconsistent, Yeah. And, so I think that's why he was kind of upset. I did think it was kind of a weird, the way he was kind of phrasing it. Of like, I just thought it was funny when he was like, where'd he go? He was like, are we 100% clean? I hope so. Everything. It's like, I was like, you were basically saying that no, your point is that everyone is doing it.
It's a weird stance to take of basically saying, look, if we're not going to police it, let's just not police it.
Right. Because I think that was how he started the rant was like, was basically like, that's not the time or place, or that's not right to do that. It was really never about that. I mean, I think ultimately he went into, I think he was saying Gallegos doesn't even do that stuff, but I feel like it started with, he wasn't even saying that was right or that was wrong or on pitch. He was just saying like, you can't do that there because, this is happening all over the place.
Yeah. Because if we're not going to do it everywhere, let's just not do it everywhere. Yeah.
Right. I think that's point.
And I love that point.
Where do you stand on like the cheating spectrum of like, because I think that's one of the hardest parts of policing it is that there's some people are like, I don't like that pitchers do it, but I don't know if it's like cheating.
I was just thinking about this. I think ultimately what the stance is just don't let me see it.
Mm. Like that seems to be your philosophy with most things in general. It's like No, I'm saying you brought it up on a recent episode or whatnot about cheating is essentially trying to gain an advantage, which is sports, and cheating is just being caught. So like you're kind of all for where are those boundaries or where is that line, and then if you cross it, we'll let you know. But if I never find it, then do what you got to do. That seems to kind of be
right. Yeah, I mean, and if we're talking, and when we're talking about substances, right? Like we're like again, like the whole cameras thing. That's a different thing.
Right.
But yeah, like the only times I've ever been like really bothered by the idea of guys using it is when I've seen it.
Okay, so
Like
let me ask you this question. So, for instance, like take the Astros thing, right? Like guys stealing sign with cameras. Like if I was a pitcher, like if I was one of these pitchers on the Dodgers or Yankees or one of these guys that was affected by it as a pitcher, and that came out afterwards, like I would be very upset by that. Same thing if I found out a guy was like taking steroids and he hit a home run off me or something like that. Like, so let's say you strike out or you have a really bad game against a starter in a big situation. You find out after the fact that he was using substances. What is your initial reaction? Are you like, fuck that guy, I was cheated? Or so it's not quite as much as I guess it sounds like I would feel, or most pitchers would feel towards like the stealing of signs with use of video.
I will say no. If I get hit in the nuts by a slider that I swing at, like if a ball starts middle out and I swing at it and it hits me in the nuts.
It sounds like
no, like that would be the only time. Like, and I'm being serious though. That would be the only time where I'd be like knock that shit off. Like that's fucking that's insane.
Right. I mean, I got nothing for that. I think everyone would be upset if they swung at a pitch that ended up hitting them in the nuts.
Yeah.
Right.
But
you're anti being hit in the nuts by baseball. That seems like where your stance is.
I'd like to, I'd like to avoid that. But no, like if I just found out like that a guy, like we got no hit by a guy, and then I find out later that like, he put pine tar on his glove or something, I'd be like, you got us.
Yeah. How are you on the, let's say you do notice it in a game? Are you the guy, are you in favor of a guy going to the manager to be like, hey, go to the umpire? And
I clean it up. Okay. Like I think we had we were playing against a team. I was in Norfolk, and their catcher had pine tar like on his shin guard, like on his so he would catch the ball. I always do these little things when nobody can see them.
No, this would be a video. No, this is just going to be a video.
Catch the ball and brush the brush the shin guard with his hand. Grab the ball, throw it back to the pitcher. Has a little bit more shit on it.
Right.
And it was literally just like, dude, just like get him some new shin guards. Like we don't want him out of the game. We don't want him punished. Just like clean it up. Like we can see it, clean it up.
There was that one time, I want to say it was Yachty, and I know we both have nothing but respect for Yachty, but I want to say there was a game where he went to like block one, and it just like stuck to his chest protector.
It did.
You remember what I'm talking about?
I forgot. You know what's funny? I didn't even put that together until we were talking about this. Yeah,
and it was just like, what? I mean, come on, like what are we doing here?
Right.
I don't know. I guess my stance has always been like, I know it's not the same thing, but my stance has always been like the only reason pine tar is there is because hitters are using it to get a better grip on the bat. Yeah. So
you have to acknowledge that it's a significantly different advantage throwing a baseball.
I do
than swinging a bat.
I do acknowledge that. I just find it, I guess, ironic that it's like hitters being like, that's not fair. They're using pine tar, and then like technically it's like it's your pine tar. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I want to just take. I was just thinking about my favorite chirp from the dugout, which was I think came from Snyder. It was the first time I heard it, where he said, check the mound. He keeps going to the mound.
Right.
I don't know. I just love that one.
So I think a good place to end it is D-Wash's stance is just clean it up. Just clean it up. Don't make it obvious, and clean it up.
Right. Yeah, clean it up.